Hi everyone, welcome to the Idaho Authors Showcase. My name is Janet Ravenscraft and I will be your host today. This show will be about authors and their stories. We'll find out about why they write and why this book. And then how they write. Do they use a computer, a laptop? Are they longhand? Are they recording? When they write. Are they writing daily? Do they set a time? Maybe it's the middle of the night. And what they write. Is it fiction or nonfiction? Do they like romance or sci-fi? Motivational or is it scary? Thank you all for joining us today. Now get a cup of something, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hi everyone, welcome to the Idaho Authors Showcase. I'm your host Janet Ravenscraft. Thank you so much for joining us. My guest today is Victoria Savage. She's Nurse Savage on your side, you'll know her as, and she's a nurse intuitive. Welcome to the show, Victoria. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
No. So we're going to talk about your book, Lighten Your Day. What is that? Why did you write this book? Why now? Or why last year, I guess?
Well, Light Your Day is a tool. It's an inspirational guidance and motivational tool. And I started receiving, that's why I say I'm a nurse intuitive. I realized years ago I was a conduit for whatever you want to call your higher power, God, Spirit, the universe. And I realized that as a very young woman, but it was about 2.5 years ago that I visited a family member and I left thinking, I do not know how she gets up every day. I don't know how she makes it through the day. I could not live with the heavy energy that she lived in. And for years, I would send light to people because light is healing. You know, we have an energy about us, and I would send them light when I would hear of things that would be very sad or tragic in their life.
Difficult.
And so as I left her, I thought, I want to help, but I don't know what to do. And I had this thought, well, you need to send her the light. And I said, well, I already do that. Yeah. I send her the light all the time. And then another thought occurred to me, she needs to see the light. And I thought about that and I thought, well, okay. So I started texting her that there's a certain color daily and what it would mean. I would ask the universe, what is the message today? And then so I would get the message. And I also knew that in order for us to be pulled out of sometimes very difficult places and heavy places we were in, we needed to concentrate on what was good in our life and what we could be grateful for. So I would receive the message and then I would say, this is what I'm grateful for today. And I would list that. Yeah. And sometimes it was literally the pup that was on my lap that morning, the cup of coffee, my little ritual. Sometimes, because my energy gets heavy, just like everybody else's does. And sometimes it had to be very basic things. And then I would say to her, what are you grateful for today?
Okay,
and
so
she would start,
respond?
Yeah, she would start responding to me. And then the last thing I would say was, I wonder who we can help today. Because what I know is, and I'm known as Nurse Savage on your side. I'm a senior success strategist. I help families keep their aging loved ones independent longer. One of the things I learned over the years was one of the hardest things about aging is when we lose some of the independence and we become reclusive and maybe physical things are going on and we start getting very central focused and all we're focusing on is what isn't working.
Right.
And so I would lovingly tell my clients, I always laugh when I say, this is my compassionate nurse, get over yourself. Get out and see what you can do for someone else because it really does lift you and elevates your spirit as well.
By helping others.
Yeah, so that would be the last part of that message. So I started texting her those, and that was like mid-September, 2.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And mind you, she had just moved in from a home to a one-room little tiny pool house beside someone's house.
Oh.
And life was not good. And she'd been trying to buy a house for over 4 years, and in her price range, investors would come in and just pay cash, and she never had a chance. So by mid-October, she found a house, and her offer was accepted.
Perfect.
But it was a short sale.
Oh, that time of year.
Yes. And it closed in 30 days.
Wow.
And she was in her house mid-December.
Okay.
And certainly through those couple months, I saw her energy shift. And so it became very apparent to me how powerful this tool was for getting people through difficult times as well as just daily. Again, we have our ups and downs. And so I started a subscription so people can receive Light Your Day by email daily in their inbox. And then I wrote this book, which is actually kind of a workbook. So I give a little instruction in it that says either you can go through it daily because there's a month's worth here. And at the bottom, there's a place where you can write out what you're grateful for each day. Or you can choose not to do it that way, but just flip to the day and just, ask your higher power, what do I need to know for today? What lesson, what education, what do I need for today? And you can just flip to that. And then I went a little further. And I created the oracle cards, and there's, 40 some, I can't remember. And so daily you can just choose a card, ask again what your higher power wants you to know for that day. And you can just flip through the cards and then read that, because
that's where it's come.
Yeah, and what I found is with the cards is I'll bring them to meetings and I'll have people just choose a card, and it's really fun because they'll get it and I'll go, well, did that speak to you at all? Is that, and they're just going, oh my gosh, it did. It was amazing how that's exactly what I'm going through. And it's because their energy attracted what they needed to know.
So your title, that's part of that lighten. I like that lighten your day. That must speak to some people too.
Yeah, it's just Light Your Day.
Oh, Light Your Day, excuse me.
Yeah, it does, because for me, I love color. And that's the thing that for me is really the fun part. And I always said, this is the part I get to choose. But there really is energy in different colors. Like emerald green is a very healing color. But with these, it's more whimsical. I get to choose the color, and then it just was because of the beauty that color is. And so each day comes with a color, and then light is energy. We are nothing but energetic beings. From the very cells, the ions and the protons, people kind of think
how do we get up and move without the energy? So.
Yeah, and when you walk into a room and nobody said anything and you go, whoa, there's something going on here. It's because you're feeling the energy of all the people in there. It's not this out there woo-woo thing. It is actual physical. And so the light is different vibrations that we have in our energy. When we're down, when we're upset, when we're depressed, we have very low and very slow vibrations. And so light will bring in the different kinds of vibrations. So
and that is true. I believe in that same thing, that we are all energy, and it's like your body just doesn't move by itself.
Right.
It has to have energy to get you moving. So what is your process for writing? Are you a everyday writer? Are you morning, evening?
Well, for 2.5 years, I definitely was an everyday writer because I received the messages. And I recently just kind of stopped that. I knew that it was not necessarily had come to an end, but it's on hold for now because I have almost 800 messages. And so for 2.5 years, I was an everyday writer.
Everyday writer.
And I have a couple other things I'm writing now. And so I write more inspirationally, it's just when I feel like writing.
There you go.
I'm not real methodical about it because I don't have any deadline.
So do you handwrite? Are you
I do
computer?
both.
Do you audio?
I do all of it.
YouTube too. I think you're a YouTuber too, aren't you?
I do YouTube, yeah. And I love the record function on my phone in notes because when I have little thoughts, I will just stop, record that so I don't lose that thought.
That's smart, actually, because how many times have I said, oh, that's a really good idea, and don't stop, and then it's later, what was that?
I know I had a really good idea.
Yeah, I just really can't remember. What was that?
Yeah, so that record function is an awesome thing. And I'm writing a book now that is a very personal book because it's a story about, it's called Shed This Story. And it incorporates my life history. I have to write that by hand. And I tried doing the computer and it was not personal enough, I guess. And so that one I'm writing by hand.
Back on.
Yeah, I don't like that part. That part for me. Actually, I just thought about that as we were talking. I could read it and transcribe it that way because I do not like sitting there typing it.
I was just going to say, we had another author was talking about this. Towards the end of the book, she just did everything on audio and then had it transcribed. She said there was more edits included because you had to edit more because when you write, like when you do it on the computer, you correct as you go along.
Well, and the autocorrect chooses some words. It's really funny. I'll go back and read things and go, what? and then think, okay, I've got to think of the context here and not pay attention to the words, and then oh, and it's really funny what autocorrect will do for you.
It's amazing all the electronics and what we have nowadays, but yeah, there's good things to it, but there's
a difficult
the
part.
frustration for me is when it keeps correcting a word that it's like, that's not what I said, and then if I don't catch it, especially when we do text, because that's, my kids, especially with my kids, I text all the time with my kids, so that's that millennial generation, that's how they want to communicate, so that's how I learn.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I had to as well. My kids would rather text, and I was a little irritated with that at first, and now I find myself, if I don't really want to spend much time, then I text someone and I can get the point across, do what I need to do, and continue on. So I do see the value of it somewhat unpersonally.
I do too, and sometimes if I just want to just check in, where are you, what you doing, how are things going, and so where are you? Let's just kind of your type of thing is inspirational, but you're
but
now you're doing a nonfiction, which is basically your memoirs.
Right. It's actually called Shed the Story because I do have a coaching program now too called Shed the Story, and my life history is as I believe everyone's is pretty darn interesting. The first 9 years, and so that's where a lot of my stories were shaped that have stood in my way.
Okay.
So that one is my nonfiction. Well, I have two nonfiction.
All right, we're going to take a break, so we'll be right back. Thank you. Hi everyone, welcome back. So I'm here with Victoria Savage, and we're talking about her book Light Your Day and her process and why she writes. And so tell us, what's your favorite part about being an author? What inspires you to write?
Honestly, I guess it's kind of what inspires me to do most of what I do, which is somehow it could help someone else. And we're not so unique that we don't all have kind of the same issues at some time. And getting different perspectives on how you work through those issues is always helpful, because what works for me sometimes may not work for me at other times as well as for you. But sometimes what I've got to offer might help you.
Might do that.
And make life a little less stressful for you.
So I know you had a program, Nurse Savage on Your Side. And that was... how did that start, and then what was the intent of that?
Well, it was a blog talk radio program, and my goal is to help people understand the very preventable reasons people fail in the aging process as they get older.
And we're all going to get older, so.
And there's millions of us trying to help our aging parents, or having to help our aging parents, and yet we don't have all the information we need to do that. And so that was what that show was about. It was the different subject matters that people don't really realize in the community that some of the medical people do understand. And so that was the intent of that program, was to just help educate them and have them realize things that would be very helpful for staying independent.
Well, and I know that for myself, I'm in the process of being a daughter and a mother, and the aging process of my 85-year-old mother, and then being the mother of a daughter. And so that has been a whole new realm. It's like everything comes full circle. So I can see this being, especially with 10,000 baby boomers are turning 65 per day. So
per day, yeah.
Per day.
And so the sandwich generation, which is exactly what you are and what we are, is growing. But they don't know what they need to know. Mm-hmm. And so that's what was the intent of that. And that's what I do. I do a lot of educating. I travel. I do classes for people. And the newest thing that is really coming out is it possible to avoid dementia? Because there are millions slated to be afflicted with dementia in the next 25 years. And so we need to know what we can do, what is in our power to help prevent that as well. So it's another thing I teach.
Well, we're living longer, and so as we're living longer, the chances of dementia it comes in so many different forms too.
So many different forms. And they don't really know definitively why we get it, except for vascular dementia, because that's just a lack of blood flow to the brain for some reason. They don't always know why that happened. But most of the time, they really don't know why. And so we look at all the things they do know now about our brain, which is different than what they used to think, and what we can take charge of and do our very best to avoid what we can avoid, and then and hope for the best as well. But I'm not one for standing and hoping. I'm one for doing, and so taking charge.
Well, and giving hope. And you have, I know you're doing some community ed classes, and so
I do.
And I think I heard you say that your dementia class is the one that's the largest class. That
it feels immediately to overflowing. And
so what are your classes that you teach? So
I teach Help Your Aging Parent Live Independently Longer, and then I teach Live Independently Longer, and that's directly for the boomers, because we need to know where our power lies, and we need to start directing that process. We will bankrupt this medical system, this country, if we don't take charge of ourselves now and maybe not need that medical system as soon. And so, then I teach, is it possible to avoid dementia? And that one, it's just really fun because it feels immediately. They call me, can we add more spaces? And so I know that
there's an interest and there's a concern, if nothing else.
And a fear.
Yeah, a fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, I started teaching it and really researching it because my mother had dementia. And so then I go, well, am I going to be getting it too? And so I do everything I can, and I'm pretty much an everything kind of gal. I learn what I can and go, okay, I'm going to do this and this and this. And then if I end up with dementia, it's not because I didn't try.
You didn't try, and you have the best thing. Yeah, I heard you speak on that at one point. I go, oh, that makes sense, and it makes sense about being that what you call the sandwich generation.
Yeah.
So you also have a conference coming up.
I do in May.
May.
It's called Live Long, Be Strong, and it's our second annual conference, and it's sponsored by the Idaho Women's Business Owner this year. And it really is kind of around the theme, Shed the Story. And so there's 6 of us speakers, and it'll all be about the aging process from a different perspective, because there's more than just the physical when it comes to aging. And we need to be able to stay relevant and engaged and vital. But it doesn't just happen. We have to take charge, and we have to start creating that now so that our aging process is more what we want instead of something we're just hoping.
Or something we end up with. Because we're not paying attention, because we don't take the necessary steps to keep ourselves healthy.
Well, we don't know where our power lies. There is a great deal of power within us to shape that aging process to something more that we want it to be, but people don't think like that. No. They just go, hope it works.
Well, and here's the other thing. As we're retiring, you have to start a whole new, that's like reinventing yourself. And I know from statistically in reading that that's when a lot of people just give up because they don't have anything. They've not planned for the future. They've not planned for anything else. All of a sudden they've worked 30 years, whatever, 40 years, some of us, and then all of a sudden, what am I going to do now?
Well, and that's where their identity lies. The task in the last stage of our life task is integrity versus despair. So when you no longer have the identity and the need that your job created for you, maybe your kids don't need you now, all of a sudden you're in an identity crisis, and it's very easy to become despairing and go, what am I good for? Well, if you start taking charge sooner, even then, if you're given the idea that you can actually contribute in some way still, people will thrive that process, even in their 80s, being able to realize that they are still valuable, but you have to make it happen many times. So
and it has to be intentional. I mean, we have to take that responsibility on ourselves, that this is something that we need to do for ourselves. Nobody else is going to do it for us.
Right.
I recently know this very well and personally, because I went through a transformation, and I was going towards one direction and laid off, and all of a sudden, what you said, I lost my identity. I was like, I wasn't prepared for that. And it took me, several months to get myself back on track. But I said it was like all the losses. It was like the grief of a loss, because, I lost my job. I lost my people I worked with every day, which was like my family, because when you spend 8-10 hours a day in a job, that becomes your family. And then when you lose all of that, you go through all those processes of grief, depression, and then you go through frustration, and then there's anger. And so I can see that, and I'm noticing it in more people, that as they're getting close to it and they don't know, or even in younger people, if they're just don't like their job, don't like what they're doing, that it affects everything with them.
Right.
It affects everything around them, and affects the way they look. And it's like, when I'm talking with somebody and I can feel they're in that space, it's like, you're the only one.
You're the only one that can change it.
Exactly. This is not about anybody else. This is about you.
Yeah.
And that I can see that for myself. That's how I got myself, was totally taking that accountability.
Right, and Live Long, Be Strong is really for every age, because like you said, even younger folks get to a point where they're going, this is not what I wanted for life. And it's like, well, then make a change. And that's what all these inspirational speakers are about that day. Things that they did and they've experienced that made drastic changes in their life for the better, but were scary or uncomfortable. And generally, when you're uncomfortable, it's because life is putting you in a situation that makes you not want to be there, so that you will move on. And that's taking that that attitude is so much more freeing than going, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
And we all start there. And then you go, because truly I believe nothing happens to us without reason, and I choose to believe it is always for my highest and best. And so that obviously makes life a little easier when you get through some of the rough patches. That, what am I to learn from this? And that is, again, how Light Your Day came about, and what it is about. What do I need to know today? And sometimes life gets so heavy that I will ask myself, do I have enough to get through today? Because that's really all we have. Fear puts us either in the past, something we did we can't change, or in the future, something that's probably not going to happen. So if I am fearful, I will just drill down into, do I have what I need to get through today? And I always have what I need to get through today, because today is pretty easy, and truly that's all we have. So resetting that focus.
I know we had a conversation here recently about fear, or when you get overwhelmed, and my comment was, is if I just stop and just do one thing, if I just concentrate on that one thing for an hour. So anyway, thank you so much. Let's take a break here real quick, and we'll be right back. Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm here with Victoria Savage, and we have been talking about her book Light Your Day, and about life and a little bit of everything. So let's kind of continue on. Where do you see yourself in this next year? What plans do you have? What's on your agenda?
I see myself doing a lot of things, doing a fair amount of traveling and teaching.
Okay.
As well as continuing to teach in this valley, and then certainly I will probably do one more conference.
One more conference.
Yeah.
You have your one in May, so you're going to do another one?
I may well in the fall. I love them because they're so interactive with people and so helpful. It just is a really great experience. So I'm also doing some other learning classes on different healing modalities, because for me the holistic part of aging is really important to teach people. There's more than just physical.
And I know you have a couple books you're working on. So what's your next book that you're...
Well, the next one that will come out is Help Your Aging Parent. It's more a manual.
Oh, okay.
It goes along with my DVD, which is actually the assessment that I go in and do.
Okay.
I'm having the family be able to walk people through that themselves, so that it's not me going out to the house, and so I can help people all over the country. So that book will be a companion to that.
Okay, great. Like a workbook type thing.
Kind of,
or
yeah.
A step by step.
Yeah, you could do either one, but they would be a great companion.
On that side of it. And then do you, what's your other book you were talking about? You had
Shed the Story.
Oh, and you Shed the Story. That's correct.
Yeah, which is
kind of. And those are all trying to have done by the end of the year?
Absolutely, yes.
Now, have you ever been interested in fiction? Does that, some people, I always like to know, because
when I was younger, I thought maybe I would, and maybe at some point, but not so much at this point. I've got too many things I need to write.
Need to write. I was
Yeah.
going to say, have you always wanted to write your whole life? Is that?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked to do that a lot in high school when I first started writing, and then obviously it's not the bent I took. I went into medicine, so it became less of a focus, but I do enjoy it. I'm not so sure that I am in the realm of making things up.
Making things up. I know. I like to read about them, but I'm not wired that way. The creation part of that doesn't interest me on that side. But I love to read about it.
Yeah.
What's a favorite book of yours? Do you have a? What are you reading right now? Even.
Actually, I'm reading Sylvia Browne's book.
Oh,
and
see.
yeah,
she's a great writer.
Yeah, there's actually 3 books in this one, and so it's a condensation of some of her past books. Very, very interesting. Her path in life and how she started very young as a psychic and didn't even understand it, and kind of the pain that came along with that often happens in life that we rail against, but really is what makes us become who we are. And so I'm really enjoying that. I like all different kinds of books.
So that's
Loved the Outlander series, the fiction. I just love that series.
See,
it's
that's
just
me.
fun.
I like some of that stuff. So I so much appreciate you being here. I'd like you to tell the audience what's that one thing you would tell new writers? What advice would you give to new writers?
Just start writing. I would schedule a few minutes a day, and don't worry about whether it's anything that anybody else would look at, but it really gets the juices flowing, and then you really start receiving inspiration about maybe what you're going to write, or what will actually be a book for you. But just start doing it. It's for nobody but you. It's therapeutic.
I agree. I think it is. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. I've enjoyed our conversation. It's been very interesting, and to talk about some different things. Wish you luck with writing your books and your conferences. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed the show and that you'll come back and see us again. Thank you so much. You guys have a great day. Bye.